Thank you, Eric. Thank you to Rissa's beloved family. Thank you to all her many friends for the honor of sharing a few words about our one and only Rissa. Rissa was an extraordinary, multi-talented, authentically wholehearted person who has more sincerely devoted friends than any of us can seem to count. She had a zest for life in spite of difficulties that was magnetic and refreshing. She had a star quality about her that is extremely rare. No wonder it is so hard to lose her. Recently, she wrote about herself that as a young adult, she often communicated in an off-putting, intense, or offensive way to people. Describing herself as a teenager, she wrote, "I felt as if I was built too fast. I was almost ready to be done with people entirely. By nature," she wrote, "I am a negative, insecure, fear of failure, angry, and bitter person." Now, one thing hearing those words we need to remember about Rissa is how much she hated hypocrisy, lies, and injustice. So those words are all true, or were at one point, which means that the Rissa we celebrate today figured out how to change that negative trajectory and transform. At some point in her teen years, she found Ralph Waldo Emerson and loved his words where he wrote, "In the woods, we return to reason and faith. There I feel that nothing can befall me in life, no disgrace, no calamity, which nature cannot repair." I was reading her Psalm 91 over the phone recently, and she exclaimed, "My favorite!" Not surprising, because verses 9 to 12 echo the sentiment we just read in Emerson. "If you make the Most High your dwelling place, even the Lord, who is my refuge, then no harm will befall you, no disaster will come near your tent. For he will command his angels concerning you to guard you in all your ways. They will lift you up in their hands, so that you will not strike your foot against a stone." Rissa's turning point came as she formally chose to focus all that fantastic life force within her on learning how to love God, and therefore learning how to love people, both of which she accomplished spectacularly. She sincerely loved God, but Rissa was not a religious person. A religious person sees their faith only in terms of forms and patterns. They can actually lose God and all of that and not even realize it. Rissa was spiritual. She saw God and the potential for good in everything and in everyone, which is particularly remarkable when you add up all the reasons she could have had to turn dark. Starting with a concussion at age 13, there follows a long list of surgeries, accidents, mishaps, and traumas, culminating in her 16-year fight against breast cancer. And that's just the physical side of things. Hard things didn't scare Rissa off. She leaned into difficulty when it came to physical challenges and likewise in relational challenges. She was transformational. She met hardships of all kinds with courage and faith and an adventurous spirit, and I believe taught many, many others along the way to do the same. Rissa and I talked on the phone almost every day the last 2 months of her life. Often we would pray and thank God that during this COVID crisis, when so many people were suffering and dying alone and isolated from their loved ones, it was Eric's faithful and loving hands that cared for her every day and every night. I am sure that Eric would say that in some ways he hated this whole journey with Rissa's cancer and would love to have had things turn out differently. We had a conversation a couple of days before she died where he shared honestly about how excruciatingly hard the last few nights had been and how completely exhausted he was. And yet, as he described to me later, the experience of holding on to Rissa's hand all the way to her last breath and being the one to deliver her over into the hand of God for eternity, he said, "I consider this my greatest achievement." I couldn't agree more. Transformational. Deepest darkness to most brilliant light. This was Rissa. What's beautiful about her legacy is that the people that she poured her life into have been reaching out to one another since she passed, to remember and to mourn together and to be there for one another. This is her spirit. Her friends are leaning in and leaning together. It seems to me that as each of us go forth out into the world, each uniquely and forever changed for the better for having known her, we will be a little bit more like her as we go on, having learned from her to never give up on people, having seen the example in her to fight for those who have no voice, as we exert ourselves as she did to make the world a little bit better. She will continue to have impact, improving lives as long as we, all her friends and family, continue. May we faithfully pass on her spirit of love.